Everyone, my name is Baha Hilo. I'm Palestinian. I was born and raised in the town of Bethlehem in Palestine. The reason I'm addressing you today is to speak a little bit about an important element of Palestinian landscape, Palestinian culture, and Palestinian life, which is the olive trees. Olive trees have existed in Palestine for about 4,000 plus years, which is a little bit older than all existing Abrahamic faiths. The importance of the tree comes from different aspects. One of them is, of course, religious, where you find the tree referred to as the blessed tree, whether it's in the Old Testament or the New Testament or in the Quran, which means it's a blessed tree in all religions that people in Palestine identify with. Also, it's a very important tree in terms of culture. Like the olive tree in Palestinian culture is a reference to, let's say, hospitality, steadfastness, a reference to or a motivator for like people to steadfast on their land, be generous, be patient, so on and so forth. And that comes from the fact that olive trees in Palestine survive in hard conditions because the weather we have is usually dry most of the year and nothing survives like the hard weather that we have in Palestine better than the olive trees. Also, olive trees in Palestine represent like a very important role in the economy that has existed in Palestine for a long time. Like, for example, one of the things people do with olive trees is like developing an industry around olive oil soap, for example, or olive wood crafting, which is like an industry that had been evolving for more than 500 years, and so on. Nearly 70% of the urban land in Palestine is covered with olive trees. We have nearly inherited about like 7 million olive trees from all the past generations for the past 4,000 years. Also, it contributes to nearly like 40% of our productive economy. In short, the olive trees represent like a cultural importance, religious importance, has an economic significance, definitely, as well as religious importance. Over the past 60 or 70 years, olive trees have also like gained a political importance because the olive tree in a way is evidence of Palestinian presence ever since olive trees have existed. If we say like we have a 4,000 years old olive tree, it means that there have been people looking after those trees for nearly 4,000 years. So olive trees in a way represent the existence of the Palestinian people, or another evidence of the existence of Palestinian people in Palestine for thousands and thousands of years. Now, despite of the different significances that we have for olive trees, and despite of its importance, for the past 70 years, we found ourselves in a way witnessing the ongoing destruction of that aspect of Palestinian life. The state of Israel, since its existence, have destroyed more than 1 million of the 7 million olive trees that Palestinians have inherited. One part of the elimination is to serve the Israeli claim that Palestine is a land without people. So the evidence of existence of people on this land for about 4,000 years comes around the olive tree. So when you remove the olive tree, you remove the evidence of Palestinians' existence. But that's on political side. A practical way, how does the state of Israel destroy or have been destroying the olive sector in Palestine? There have been like 5 different ways that were identified in which the state of Israel systematically destroys Palestinian olive trees. First one of them is, of course, like when we talk about olive trees covering urban land in Palestine, the state of Israel wants that land to colonize it. So ever since 1967, when Israel took over the occupied West Bank, which is part of Palestine, the state of Israel have established and expanded more than 193 different settlements. That happens on expense of the land which is covered with olive trees. So removing olive trees, removing Palestinian livelihood, and replace it with Israeli presence. To connect those colonies together, the state of Israel have built a road network on Palestinian property. That's nearly 1,200 kilometers of roads cutting through Palestinian property and Palestinian urban land. To know what was there before the road, all what you need to do is to look on both sides of the road. If you see olive trees, it means Israel have destroyed olive groves in order to facilitate the movement of Israeli settlers and Israeli soldiers throughout the West Bank. And thousands of olive trees were destroyed in order to enable the state of Israel to expand that network of roads. It's important to mention that those roads are inaccessible for Palestinians freely. Like you have to go through Israeli checkpoints to get on those roads. So imagine you belong to a family from which the state of Israel stole land and destroyed it and installed the road on it, and then they come in and prevent you and your family from stepping a foot or driving on those roads. Nearly 1/3 of the Israeli road network that is paved throughout the West Bank is banned for Palestinians to have access to those roads, including the families that own the land that Israel has destroyed. So through expansion of colonies, through expansion of Israeli roads, third way the state of Israel have managed to destroy like hundreds of thousands of olive trees from Palestinian families is through building and expanding what they call the security barrier. The Israeli apartheid wall that is built on the property of Palestinians throughout the West Bank, separating families from 13% of their property on the other side and destroying the olive trees on which the road was installed or the wall was installed. It's needless to mention that the Israeli wall is ruled to be illegal, and according to the International Court of Justice, it has to be dismantled, and families that sustain losses because of it must be compensated. And of course, like any other legal demand from the state of Israel to stop the destruction of the state of Israel, that demand or that rule was also ignored by the Israeli authorities. The fourth way of destruction of olive trees is through Israeli military operations. Like the state of Israel has installed in the West Bank more than 200 different military bases and military training facilities throughout the West Bank. If there are olive trees on those spots, the state of Israel would destroy those trees as well. Regularly, we use about 10,000 olive trees because of Israeli settler violence. Israeli settler violence targeting olive trees happens year in, year out. And we lose nearly 10,000 olive trees on average because of Israeli settler violence. Of course, that violence takes place in areas under Israeli control, which is usually Area C. When Palestinians complain to Israeli authorities about the destruction of their olive trees, Israeli authorities do not take that destruction seriously, which encourages more settlers to do more harm to Palestinian farms and to olive trees in general. It's important to mention that in one of the studies done by an Israeli human rights organization, they found out that the Israeli authorities ignore up to 93% of Palestinian complaints about destruction of olive trees. 7% get follow-up, and 0 is the number of Israeli criminals that were arrested by the state of Israel for destroying olive trees. In the end of it, the way the state of Israel destroys olive trees is not very different from destruction of Palestinian life as we have been experiencing it year in, year out for the past 70 years. And that destruction comes hand in hand with Israeli rule over Palestinians. It's something that destruction of olive trees and destruction of life, as we have been witnessing it for Palestinians over the past 70 years, have been so normalized in Israeli culture, in Israeli politics, in Israeli management of the land of Palestine. For how long will this destruction go on? It's needless to say that as long as the state of Israel is in control of the fate of the Palestinians, they will continue to destroy the lives of Palestinians. The state of Israel is interested in every piece of land that is owned by any Palestinian family. There has not been a month passed since 1948, since the state of Israel was established in Palestine, where a Palestinian family did not lose land for the state of Israel. The state of Israel would confiscate and steal your property under so many different regulations. It doesn't matter what the regulation that the state of Israel uses, the outcome of that is usually a Palestinian family losing access to their property and their property being declared as state property for the state of Israel. In order to encounter some of the Israeli attempts to confiscate property from Palestinian families, we help Palestinian families plant their land with olive trees simply because those are the trees that fit perfectly to whether it's the natural weather or the political weather. Let's say the natural atmosphere in Palestine or the political atmosphere in Palestine, in the sense that it doesn't need so much water. So Israel's denial of access to water resources becomes something that we can work around. The state of Israel uses regulations that would get the state to confiscate any piece of land that is not cultivated for a certain period of time. Of course, the state of Israel imposes restrictions that end up preventing you from cultivating your land and then confiscate your land for not being cultivated. Like, for example, when the state of Israel builds a wall between you and your property, they will confiscate your property for being neglected or abandoned, even though the reason your land is abandoned is because of Israeli politics. They prevent you from having access to water, for example, and water is very important for land cultivation. They prevent you from collecting rainwater or digging a hole in the ground to collect water during the rainy season, and so on and so forth. So when you are denied access to water, you will not be able to cultivate your land. So the state of Israel comes in and once again steals your land for being not cultivated for 3 to 4 years. In order to help families encounter or to help families stand in their land and maintain their access to their property, we try to help them with planting their land with olive trees. The olive trees we plant are usually sponsored by individuals from outside, so those people would be helping Palestinian families to plant their land with olive trees and to try to encourage them to stay on their land, to continue visiting it and to continue cultivating it with those trees. Once again, I just want to say that Israeli destruction of olive trees is not very different from Israeli destruction of individuals' lives, of communities, of homes, and so on. It's just another aspect of the destruction the state of Israel have brought upon the Palestinian families since 1948, which continues up until today. So for how long will this destruction go on? It will go on as long as the state of Israel is ruled by Jewish nationalist ideology, where everything in Palestine will be provided for the services of Jewish individuals, while Palestinian individuals who are Muslim, Christian, Druze, atheist, Baha'is, or whatever will be waiting for the state of Israel to come in and steal their belongings. Of course, the state of Israel will continue to bring its destruction upon Palestinian families because they know that they will never ever be held responsible for any crime they commit. And regardless of Israel's destructions of Palestinian life, their embassies will continue to operate all over the world, either because of their role in destroying Palestinians' life or despite of the destruction of Palestinians' life. So what can we do in face of this? The maximum we can do is to help Palestinian families continue to stand up, continue to steadfast, and continue to be somehow empowered in order to protect the remaining of property and land that the state of Israel did not steal yet. Thanks to Pal Expo for allowing me to pass on this message, and thanks for the organizers. And I hope one day you will be able to come to Palestine, to be there and understand what kind of reality Palestinians have been surviving day in, day out for the past 70 years. Thank you so much.